There's a chance that you could be breaking some laws you are not even aware exists, and the consequences for breaking those laws can be pretty steep. My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And today we're going to be talking about some laws that you might be breaking as you're getting your property onto the market that you're not even aware that you could be breaking. Nobody goes out of their way to intentionally break these rules, and yet they can really be a pitfall for you as you're getting your property onto the market and going through the process of selling your home. So we're going to be talking about those today, and kind of some ways and some examples of how people accidentally break those laws, and just help you try to avoid those so you can sell your home and just get on to the next thing and not have to be constantly looking over your shoulder thinking if someone's about to come after you in the future. But before we get to that, do make sure you give this video a like and do subscribe if you haven't done so already to receive more information like this. And let's go ahead and jump in. One of the big laws that you need to really be careful about breaking are the fair housing laws. And for those of you who aren't aware, fair housing bylaw says you cannot discriminate against anyone based on, there are 7 criteria, let's see if I can remember them all: race, color, national origin, familial status, gender, national origin, or disability. There we go, I think I got them all. So you cannot discriminate against anyone based off of these. And by discriminate, it can be kind of a wide interpretation. So to try to avoid putting yourself into this corner where you might be breaking that, the best way I can do that is just by telling you the common ways that that happens. Number 1, dear seller letters. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, dear seller letters are letters that buyers write directly to the seller, and it is submitted usually at the time of writing the offer. I always tell my sellers, hey, we're going to take that letter and we're going to throw it away. I know that sounds a little heartless for those of you who are buying a house, but the reason for that is so that later they can't come back and say that they were discriminated against because, you know, they saw our name was this, or we included a picture of their family, they saw we were a certain nationality, a certain color, a certain gender, and somebody else got the house because of that. So to help my sellers avoid that, we will take that dear seller letter and throw it away. Okay. The other way that's really common for people to accidentally break this and leave themselves open for these charges of being discriminatory is having video cameras set up throughout the house. Now, why does that matter? Well, if you can see who the people are who are going through the property and making offers on your property, somebody might be able to come back later and say, hey, they saw my nationality, or they heard the accent, so they knew I was from this place. They saw, you know, the color of my skin, and I was discriminated against because they saw that. So let's try to avoid that if we can. And for that reason, you might consider not having any of those video cameras set up around the place. Other than that, a really common one that you need to kind of be coordinating with your realtor about is making sure in the description of the property there are no sentences or clauses in there that could be construed as discrimination. So some of the more common ones are saying, hey, this is a great family neighborhood. This is very family friendly, or, you know, anything else that you might be writing to a specific demographic to try to entice them in there that might be construed as discriminatory against everybody else. For instance, some people might look at something that says family friendly or family neighborhood and think that's discriminating against somebody because they're single, which is a familial status. So it's little stuff like that. You've got to coordinate with your realtor, make sure they know what they're doing, because, you know, that's something we really don't want to get involved with. Fair housing violations, I've seen the numbers go anywhere from about $10,000 up to about $60,000. So let's try to avoid any of that and make sure that everybody knows what they're doing, and we're playing by the rules, and making sure that we're getting the house marketed and doing so in a way that's not going to get anybody in trouble. Now, on a different note, for those of you who are considering getting your property on the market in the near future, do make sure that you reach out to me at my website down below and be happy to send you a copy of my seller guide to give you an idea for what your next steps are going to be as you're getting your property ready for the market. Just go ahead and register to the website and put seller guide in there so I know what to send you. Now, let's talk about the other two ways that I see sellers really get themselves into legal situations that are really 100% avoidable. And the first one is going to be disclosures. Now, if you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, you know my stance on disclosures. If you see something, say something. The disclosure is there as the state of Alaska's gift to you as a home seller to be able to really get rid of most of your liability as you're selling the property. Because if you know something about the property, even if it's really small, you just disclose that, and the buyer signs that they are aware that it is there. And then later, if something pops up as a result of that, buyer is really out of options as far as trying to come after you for it. So that is the reason I really like disclosures. Waiver of disclosure is a terrible idea because a waiver of disclosure is not the same thing as a waiver of liability. And essentially, you are just assuming all the liability on your shoulders when you do sign a waiver of disclosure. Because it's not waiver of liability in big bold letters at the very bottom, final sentence of that one-page form. It says any waiver does not essentially absolve you as the seller from disclosing anything that you know about the property. So if you know something, you are legally responsible to disclose it, and if you don't, you are going to be on the hook for that, and you're probably going to be going to court if something shows up later. And by the way, the buyer can sue you for the costs of the damages done as a result of not disclosing that, and up to 3 times the amount of whatever those damages are. So don't try to be slick and just do the waiver of disclosure because some ill-informed person told you it was a great idea. It is not. You should not do it. And I feel like I've talked about this enough, and we need to move on now. Finally, the thing that I would say for trying to keep yourself out of trouble, I see a lot of people trying to advertise their properties as for Airbnb potential or B&B potential. Make sure you go back and you really review what the zoning requirements and the restrictions are for that specific property. If you are advertising something for the property and it's not actually zoned for that, you can't actually use it for that purpose, then they're going to come back and bite you really hard later on down the line. If they buy the property, they move in, they start trying to operate it that way, and then they get shut down for that reason because it's not zoned to actually be used for that. If you get in some areas that are unzoned, obviously tons of freedom there. If you find something in the city limits that are zoned for specific purposes, you need to really pay attention to that and make sure that you're advertising it for what it's actually meant for. If it's a property where, it's a single family home and they have a mother-in-law suite on there on the side, make sure you're advertising it like that, because if it's not zoned to be a duplex and you say it's a duplex, that could be a problem. So make sure that the zoning and everything you're advertising lines up, or that could be big trouble down the line. So these are going to be the 3 biggest ways that I see that sellers run afoul of the law. And most people are not even aware that they're doing it, and they're not doing it intentionally or malignantly or trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes or trying to cause anyone harm. It's just they're not aware of what the rules are. If you'd like to talk a little bit more and see what else I can do to help you avoid making mistakes like these that are going to cost you big down the line, do feel free to reach out to me at my website or Facebook or Instagram, all of which are going to be in the description section down below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.